Today's shooting is the worst soldier-on-soldier violence in our country's history, but it is far from the only incident. In May, as we reported earlier, Sergeant John M. Russell allegedly killed 5 service members at a combat stress clinic at Camp Liberty in Iraq and at Fort Carson in Colorado. 14 soldiers from that base have been charged or convicted in at least 11 murders since 2005. Lee Christopher Smith wrote about the Fort Carson murders in the latest issue of Rolling Stone magazine. Lee, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Up until today, the Fort Carson murders were believed to be the largest killing involving U.S. soldiers at a single institution in modern history. What is your sense of, or can you give us the thumbnail of what happened there and how we should think about that in relation to today's Fort Hood shootings?
The Fort Carson homicide cases on a broad level, 12 of the 14 soldiers who were involved in the killings had served at least one tour in Iraq. I think 10 of the 14 had displayed some behavioral health issues, and 6 of those had been diagnosed as having PTSD. And what we saw at Fort Carson on a broad level again was we saw these soldiers returning from one or multiple tours of intense fighting in Iraq and returning to a base that was not able to adequately care for them or track their behavior. You saw Evans Hospital at Fort Carson was understaffed tremendously. They had only about 65% of their positions filled in the behavioral health unit. They were dispensing care to soldiers that soldiers themselves called cookie cutter treatment, where everyone would be given a 20-minute briefing and sent off with a prescription for the antidepressant Zoloft. And you saw them not being able to really find or identify soldiers that you might call at risk. In one of the more notable cases, a soldier had come back from a tour in Iraq and had spoken with a mental health care provider with a post-deployment assessment. And this soldier was known to believe that he was an alien-like creature, known as the black, half dinosaur, half alien, known as the Black Raptor. And clearly, according to people in his unit, had serious behavioral health problems. And yet the Fort Carson official declared this soldier fit for duty. And sometime soon after that, he allegedly raped and killed a teenage girl. So what you saw going on was just a base that was not able to adequately respond to soldiers who were experiencing intense combat.
And again, we don't want to draw parallels that aren't there between Fort Carson and Fort Hood. Today's alleged shooter was not a combat veteran. He was a military mental health provider, a psychiatrist. But anybody who commits a massacre clearly is criminally insane or just criminal. Is there, briefly, is there a screening, treatment, oversight problem that the military knows it has? I know they did a 6-month study on Fort Carson's killings.
The study, which was released this July, identified a number of problems, especially regarding staffing, resources. What you saw was the military took the study that seemed to identify a number of trends as far as how to identify these soldiers, what they had in common. Again, behavioral health issues, substance abuse issues. The study marked actually the first time that the Army ever admitted publicly that intense combat could in fact have what they called a negative behavioral effect on soldiers. And the study pretty well documented this, and Army officials believe that the study really didn't confirm anything other than a need for more studies. And speaking with mental health care providers at Fort Carson, they were telling me their own viewpoint of what they were seeing in the behavioral health care unit. And you have guys coming in who are so angry, have so much pent-up rage. They ripped their dog's throat out at 2 in the morning just because he was barking in the middle of the night. And just to encounter those kinds of soldiers and really be able to care for them is really what needs to be addressed there. And the military is still sort of studying what they think would be causal factors. Well, the causal factors are right there, spelled out in the study. You just have to watch these soldiers more carefully. And that's not what Fort Carson did. These were often soldiers who got lost in the system.
Lee Christopher Smith from Rolling Stone magazine, congratulations on your reporting in the current issue of Rolling Stone on the Fort Carson murders, and thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.